Hello everybody, my name is Dratnos, and today we're taking a look at one of the most impressive strategies we've ever seen in the Mythic Dungeon International. Echo found themselves in the lower bracket after being defeated by dogs in an impressive upset, and they therefore had to play Murozond's Rise, a dungeon they'd been hoping to avoid so that they could keep this strategy secret until the Global Finals. This strategy let Echo set up a wormhole between Morchi's arena and the time-lost battlefield, using the Infinite Riftmage's Temporal Loophole ability. This ability causes the Riftmages to drop a wormhole when they die, which will automatically connect to the location of the previous wormhole. Normally it's hard to get much use out of this, since these enemies all spawn in the same area after the first boss, so you usually end up just creating a few wormholes 30 yards apart from each other that aren't particularly helpful. To understand how Echo got these Riftmages to the other parts of the dungeon, we first need to understand how Riftmages work. There are 4 of them in this area, 2 patrolling and 1 each guarding the entrances to the left and right wings of the dungeon. In order to activate the portals to those wings of the dungeon, both of the Guardian Riftmages have to be killed, so Echo need to save the patrolling ones to use for their wormholes. The next problem that Echo had to tackle is that it's impossible to enter the portal on either side of the dungeon while you're in combat, so their entire team went Night Elf for Shadow Meld. The strategy begins with all 5 players DPSing down one of the patrolling Riftmages. Once it's low on health, all 3 DPS players hit their meld and travel towards the time-lost battlefield. They then sneak into the boss arena and set up a Warlock Ritual of Summoning. Meanwhile, Xaylia has hit his Shadow Meld and run through the portal towards Morchi. Even though Shadow Meld has dropped combat, as a Resto Druid he has both dots and hots that will tick and get him back in combat with the low health Riftmage. Since he's in combat he can't stealth, but a nice wild charge gets him safely through to Morchi's arena. Once Xaylia is in position, Now leaps extremely far away from the Riftmage and any small patrolling enemies he might be in combat with, then hits his own Shadow Meld. The low HP Riftmage now is only in combat with Xaylia. Most non-boss enemies have a behavior that pro players call snapping, that they'll use if their current target is out of range or otherwise unreachable. They'll stand around for a couple of seconds while evading any incoming attacks, then teleport or snap to their target, at which point they may also evade for a few more seconds before beginning to behave normally again. Xaylia is ready for the initial assault from this enemy, with defensives and healing rolling as it teleports over. Then, once it's done evading, he executes it with the activated ability of Iridal, the Earth's Fury. And then he accepts his summon to rejoin his DPS players. This drops a wormhole connecting the sand area with Morchi's platform, which would already be useful, but now Echo need to set up the critical wormhole to the time-lost battlefield. To do this, Now drops a Sigil of Flame underneath the other patrolling Riftmage. This ability will get him in combat after a brief delay, and before that happens, Now accepts his summon, which he couldn't do if he was already in combat. Once the sigil hits, the other Riftmage will snap over and Echo will be able to cleave it down with the Destroyer. Once the Destroyer dies, there's a wave of 3 mounted enemies. Echo again used Mind Soothe to avoid getting in combat with them while they finish off the Spiteful Shades. The 4 non-tank players hop through the wormhole towards Morchi's room, and Now drops another Sigil of Flame before following, snapping those 3 enemies into Morchi's room and fighting them with the boss, which is almost always a very efficient thing to do. Once that's done, they again take the wormhole back to the time-lost battlefield and finish the boss encounter there, and then finally head to the end of the dungeon using the normal portals. These sorts of highly technical and innovative strategies are one of the coolest parts of the MDI to me. I personally love seeing teams show off their knowledge of how the game works and come up with outside-the-box ways to speed through the dungeons. But if that's not your thing, then don't worry. The MDI also features nail-biting DPS races, tragic wipes, and thrilling underdog victories. Next weekend is Group B, where MDI giants like Perplexed and Mandatory will fight to earn a spot in the Global Finals to challenge Echo. Tune in Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on either Twitch or YouTube to make sure you don't miss the next incredible strategy.